Now that we back from class, now I mean, today we got in the studio joint and a person that I would say I owe a huge thank you to because shit, I talked to the man literally one day and in a weekend, all this started becoming possible. And it literally happened. I'm gonna say this was probably maybe a week and a half ago. And here we are recording this right now in a whole new spot. I got my man John in the building. Goes by the County Connoisseur, man. How you doing, man?
Good. Ain't gonna be here
like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Yeah. No, I'm just excited because I think that having a podcast like this in St. Mary's County is amazing. I think that we got to have these good conversations, and you guys are bringing that here, which is awesome to see. And when we first connected and we were able to kind of find some ways to collaborate already, that was just, it was great. It's what it's all about.
So the name, the County Connoisseur, like
Connoisseur.
Connoisseur. What
County Connoisseur.
Yeah.
Connoisseur.
So what? Well, the name kind of explains itself, but why the name?
Yeah. So I guess, one of my buddies is a total workaholic and he's a total penny pincher too. And I love him to death. But the thing is, he's only got one singular hobby, and that is going fishing. And he was like, Jonathan, I think I'm going to start a charter business. And I thought, dang, man, I wish I could do that too. Like do something like really fun for your business and work. And I was like, what do I even like to do? And I started thinking, I'm like, man, I don't really have any hobbies. I don't like go out and do things. And like in particular, like I'm not part of any sports teams. And I'm like, I like going to eat, I like going to the bars, I like going to all these like different random things. To the, national lawnmower, races just like a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, all that random stuff I actually like. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can do all those different things, talk about them. And maybe, that could be a way in which I can, find out what to do on the weekends for me and my family. And then maybe it might bring some other people to those events too.
Yeah, I ain't never seen nothing like that. I'm like, damn, he just named everything that's happening out here on the weekend. Ain't know none of it. I ain't know not one thing. In one little click, I seen 7 different things that's going on in 1 week. I said, well, damn. And I was bored as hell. I'm like, man, ain't shit to do out here. That's a lie.
Not anymore.
That's a lie. Now, at first, when I said I was going to have you on, it was going to be, I had some different things I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah. But I think those things I could talk to you about off camera.
Yeah.
I want to know, you heard us communicating here for the better part of this podcast so far, of this show. And I want to know, what are you thinking? The obvious is a racial thing. What do you think? Real talk. What do you think is the disconnect or why we can't sit down and talk?
Well, I think that firstly, you got to lead by example. So even just us getting together right now is part of the solution. But part of the problem is that people don't want to sit down and talk. They don't want to get together. They don't want to sit down and meet people that they don't know. So one of the things that is kind of nice about my marriage is that my wife and I were kind of complementary, let's just say. I'm kind of an extrovert. She's a bit of an introvert. I kind of like being with people and meeting new folks and just, I'm like, I'm out there. Right. She would much rather just be with her like really close friends and just kind of like stay there. And so there's pros and cons to each. But what I've found is that with social media and with people getting really caught up in their phones is that there's less and less people out there being open enough to say, hey, I'm Jonathan. Like, let's talk. Let's get together. So people are just insecure a little bit, I think. They're worried about being rejected. They're worried about, offending other people. They're worried about looking dumb and looking silly. And so I think ultimately the problem with why we can't get together is because people are afraid.
I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna shock a lot of people, but I'm not from this area. So it's not me being, it's just the truth. Me growing up was not a lot of white people. I'm just be honest. Like me growing up in school, I probably 5 white folks in the class. Like I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And to me, my examples was, the same stereotypes of like when the cop come through and they slam you on the ground. That was the examples of what we have. Now moving here is like, that's cap. But at the same time, it's like, well, you do see racism too, but it's not all just that. That was just the assholes that they had patrolling this area.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, why is it comfortable? Why can I see it at, hey, it's not everybody, and then others would see it as well, the stereotypes we have to believe. White people are this way, black people are that way. Mexicans are this way, Mexicans are that way. And if you say they're not that way, now you're the racist.
So you're saying that, like, basically you find that you grew up in a way in which you could see the exceptions and not necessarily follow the rule when it came to stereotypes. And yet you find that these days when you try to break the stereotype and you try to kind of like say, no, you know, not every black person is like this. No, not every Asian person is like this. No, not every white person is like that. You feel like now that kind of line of thinking is attacked, and that's kind of like, you know, kind of like like, what is it called when you like take someone's culture,
Culture vulture.
What's it called?
Culture vulture.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really believe in it.
Yeah, but I'm saying because you have a different like you was more here. You know what I mean? So it was way more around, so you had time to know that. I didn't have time to know that.
Yeah, I was talking about like the culture vulture thing in general.
Oh, you don't believe in culture vulture?
No.
Interesting conversation.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, I don't really.
That's the proper way, but they call it culture vulture.
I
Yeah.
don't believe in it, especially like here in America. Let's be real. It's like we go do things that none of us are really a part of. Like, let's be real. Like, we all go do that. Like, I've seen so many times. Oh, it's Cinco de Mayo. Let's go drink. And now one of them people is Mexican, and he was like, "Oh, it's fucking."
Fancy as soon as somebody gets some cornrows, they be like, "Oh my gosh!"
It's like it's St. Patrick's Day. It's fucking this. It's that. It's this. It's that. And it's like we do things all day long that's not part of our culture. And it's just like it's like, oh, we hold on different things. Like, I'm sorry, like I don't give a fuck about box braids. Do you get like really?
I mean, honestly, me personally, I've never been one to be like, well, that's something that only black people could do. I mean, I feel like there are things that are intended for black usage, but they're not excluding other people.
Not hair. Hair is
Exactly.
definitely not intended. Hair is just fucking hair. How you chose to braid it has nothing to do with what you've been black.
And I feel like, yes,
You could have made that shit
certain
into a
things-
peacock.
That's what I'm saying. Certain things come from the black culture, but how many black people you see walking around with Chinese sticks in their hair? How many black people you walk around with fingernails? Where we get them from?
Yeah.
Where we get them from? Like, if we're gonna be serious, I don't feel like we can really be like, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't take our culture. When we all take from each other's culture.
You know what I'm thinking about though, to be honest, is that like I'm thinking about Eminem when he got in the rap. I'm thinking about, you know, some of the black NFL quarterbacks, right? I'm thinking about Tiger Woods. You know, maybe is that what you're kind of putting your finger on? Like,
Yeah, like-
people are like, no, Eminem cannot be the best
but
rapper
he is.
because he's not black.
It's
But
just,
it's
but they just don't have ears. If that's what like,
But I think it's that
It's either him or Lil Wayne.
mindset that keeps us kind of locked in. Like, that's even when I was going back to talking about, like, that's black people shit, that's white people shit. That comes from a time where we weren't doing the same
but when
shit.
I thought of like,
I just wanted to comment in there. So I was a part of the audience. Nah, you know, I think it comes from just the essence of black people getting a lot of things stolen.
that's exactly what I was about to say.
thinking.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
They're so sensitive about when our culture is
Yep.
appropriated.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. When we come to that, the money value thing of it, we don't get to earn money from the way we are. Like, just say if we make such and such cool, and that's our thing. It's our thing, and we know it. But once it get on the TV screen, once it get on everything, it's no longer ours, and we definitely ain't getting money from it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, rap is not just only for black people. What black people did create it, but we don't own a piece of it. You know what I'm saying? So that I get that. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like tequila from Mexico. Like you can't name it tequila unless it's from Tequila, Mexico.
With that,
Period.
I don't know if there's a good way to monetize, you know.
Yeah.
But-
so how would you see it?
See what?
Cultural appropriation.
Man, I don't know, you know, because like I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what are things? I think it's difficult. I think for certain races to empathize because we just haven't necessarily experienced the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, or maybe it's just that, like, for instance, or I guess here's my favorite holidays, right? I like Thanksgiving, I like, the 4th of July, and I like Christmas. Like those are it. And so when I think about my culture as what's most important to me, well, it's the American culture and it's kind of like the Catholic culture. And I don't really think so much of myself as a white person. I'm actually 25% Vietnamese, but nobody like ever thinks that, and actually 25% of me, I have no idea what it is. So I just like race for my own self-identity has never been something that has really played too much of a factor, I don't think, or at least not in my conscious mind. And I think that's the case for like a lot of like white folks. And so maybe it's just that there's that because we haven't experienced, we don't necessarily like
You can't feel it. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. Like we can express it and we can feel it, but it's like you can try to sympathize, but you can't grasp it like what you're
I can intellectually do it.
Right. But you can't. You haven't went through it, and I get that in a sense because sometimes when I say like that's why I feel like racism is taught. You know what I mean, because just like let's just say like me, I didn't grow up with the whole hate white folks. They wasn't fucking around, but there's some people that was raised like that, and that's what they were accustomed to. So that's what the fuck they're gonna say, and I'm not accustomed to it. So it's like, but the person that didn't know that he was wrong for always saying that,
Yeah.
he just doesn't know. Not yet. But I look at it like once someone comes to you and starts telling you, hey, bro, this ain't right, and you push back and be like, well, this is where I am. Well, now you know. Now you consciously know you're making a choice to stay wrong.
But it's hard for someone who's never, who this is all I know. And for you to come to me at however old I am, past the age of maybe 13, 14, any age past that, that's all you know. And if you're telling me to stop believing everything that I've ever learned in my life, then that's going to be they're going to give you pushback regardless of what the specific
I
topic
get that
is.
if you say they're 14, whatever, stuff like that. But if you're 35, still going off of what you thought of when you were 14, then
I can't talk about that.
you haven't done growth. You just wanted to stay the same.
I'll give you an example of that though, because like there's been 2 times in my life where I feel like I've really like learned because of like not being part of another race. And the first time when I was younger, I have 8 sisters, right? So I've got a lot of girls to protect, right? And a lot of girls to complain to me when other guys are mistreating them. And so my sisters would oftentimes say like, oh man, these Mexican guys are always staring us down. Like whenever we go to Walmart, whenever we go to the grocery store, like they're always looking at us. And so what am I going to do when I go to Walmart and when I go to these different places? I'm like, hey, yeah, like look at me, like don't look at them. And they kind of give me a bit of a prejudice against these Mexican guys because I thought that, they must be somehow just kind of rude insofar as being a little bit too forward. And then now that I'm married to a Mexican woman, I went down to Mexico and studied Spanish. And I know how much they greet each other. They look at each other in the eye. They actually say hello to everybody in the room. And they are always greeting each other. And so when you look at somebody, it doesn't have the same degree of intensity as it does in the United States, where if I am looking at a guy as I'm walking, past him on the sidewalk, he's like, okay, are you gay? Or are you like trying to, like, what are you trying to do? And if I'm looking at a woman as we pass each other on the sidewalks, she also is thinking, oh, you must be into me. Yeah. You must be like trying to, what are you trying to do? You're going to talk to me or what?
I know that gave you a
not that
different
way,
perspective.
Mexico.
Did you automatically think that when you first had that experience, did you automatically think back to when you was younger and protecting sisters like, damn?
It took actually a lot of my wife's kind of complaining about how rude people are in the United States. Is that how basically little etiquette that we have, and she would always feel like people are being rude to her and being unfriendly. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, why does she think that they're being unfriendly because they don't greet her or because they get into a circle of people and they don't acknowledge her in particular? And so it took a lot of like thinking about it. But then once it clicked, I was like, I know what's going on. Yeah. And I know why I felt that and why I probably shouldn't have felt that when I was a kid. And then the other time was just this guy, he was Vietnamese, and he came to my wife's work, came to my house, and my wife was there and I wasn't there. And so he and his wife and his kids were there and they're talking. And this is when I wasn't doing, anyway, I was renting at the time and I only had one car and I was just starting my businesses. So I was basically broke. I like really had very little money. And I was insecure about that. And so he's going around my house being like, when are you guys going to buy a house? And when are you guys going to buy another car? And, why don't you guys, do you guys have insurance? And it's all these things that are like, my wife is like getting pissed off at. And she's like, this guy is asking all of our business and he's just being super, super rude. And she was pissed. And so because she's pissed at me, she's lighting a fire under my ass. And so I get on the phone and I'm ripping into him. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you talking like this? And he was like, listen, he's like, I'm so sorry if I, stepped on your shoes, but like money is not something that like is a sensitive subject in Vietnam. And then I thought about that and I was like, you know what? It's not. They are very, very open about money. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're so good at it, Yeah. And so just 2 times in my life where I was just like, man, okay, I guess
when you was
I got it.
like
I got
insecure about it. They were like, "Well, this is a normal. This is how we talk about that bag. Like, you got this, you straight, you got the insurance, you got when you get your house. Okay, I get it."
That kind of runs back to when I was talking about like people raised in so many different ways. Where we got to understand that people are coming from different places than us. It's not just you, and that happens in romantic relationships, friendships, everything. Like damn near even your parents. Like you got to think they had parents too that had. And they're not raising you as do you got your parents.
I do think there's a thin line between that, though. Of me having to see that you were raised a different way and me having to participate in it. I do think there's a thin line. Because...
I was going to comment on that. A lot of the cultural appropriation kind of come from Hollywood. And inappropriate images of cultures.
Yeah.
So... Asians, all those stereotypes, it comes from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Black people like watermelon,
yeah.
minstrel shows
Yeah.
and all of that. It comes from like the Asians and eating and dogs.
Well, the us like in Watermelon they exploited it in the minstrel shows, but once we got like so-called freed or whatever, and they was like doing like sharecropping or whatever, the biggest thing that we were selling at the time was watermelon. So that was a lot of our income, and they was trying to shit on it per se. Like niggas with watermelon, da, da, da. That's why the ice cream truck song is the name of that song is Niggas Want a Watermelon. Like you can literally pull it up right now. It goes, niggas want a watermelon, la 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 la. That's how it goes. But it goes, you ride it down the neighborhood, it's like ding, 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 ding. But that's literally the song.
Yeah, it's niggas want a watermelon. Just like insinuously type, anybody might know catch a
Nigga get
toe. Like, a lot of his songs actually come from,
and it's still, you could go look up this song and they play the record right now.
That's crazy.
It's wild though to think about how the culture gets reflected back onto you through TV. We were talking about that a little bit earlier today. Is how you sometimes don't know yourself really well until you see your reflection. And I think that's what happens in TV is that people get educated about, oh, this must be what it's like. And so you're like looking at the culture through a mirror, But if the mirror is foggy and it's not representing reality correctly, then we start to understand ourselves incorrectly.
Because it's supposed to image
That's one of the arguments I had with somebody in Texas, because he was like how you are. I was the same way. Well, I didn't grow up with that many white people. That he was the exact opposite. He didn't grow up with black people. So the only representation of black people was TV. And the only representation on TV is women are hoes and we are
ghetto and ratchet.
in a sense. And so that's the only image that he ever seen. So when we got to school together, he just completely stayed away from it until he was forced to partner with me and group with me. And then he realized, he's
shit.
not like this at all.
Yeah.
And then we became really good friends after that because we was able to have an understanding. But for all the time I had thought, I was like, man, this guy racist. He won't look at me.
Yeah.
He just completely run the opposite way.
Yeah.
And really it was just a cultural difference. And he just didn't understand. All he understood was what the media told him about my culture. And that's the same thing when you go to other countries. They only see us through what the media presents of us, which is they are, with black exploitation films and stuff like that. Yeah, they hire black actors, but it's to get the black dollar. But it was a mockery of the black culture.
Right.
It's exactly what it was.
I love all these intertwinings that we doing. We
It's I say it's a lot of factors because like even what you said, like with the culture, like watch it on TV, and then you also got like the small prejudice of the parent, the things that we talk every single day that we never pay no mind. Like, you know, you got a kid sitting on the floor and you be like, six people just got shot in a drive-by shooting, and you're like, oh, there goes those niggas again, or somebody just shot up a school, so those white folks, and then damn, you don't pick up on those things. It's just some shit you just blurt out your mouth.
Yeah.
But your kid's sitting right there and absorb it, because that even goes down to the man and woman, because you know you got your kid right there, you know you chilling with your homeboys, you got your young son right there not paying no mind. So yeah, these women hoes, and you just gotta go fuck.
Yeah.
And that's all he heard. And it's the same word with like little girls going to the beauty shop and say, oh, niggas ain't shit, they gon' cheat, they only want one thing, and we have all these colliding moments. They don't know that your kid's sucking all that shit up, because we know we've all been kids, bright-eyed to grown folk talk till they say go get out. But when you hear just a little bit, what y'all talking about?
And then you go back to the other kids. Now you building a whole nother ideology in the kids. Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. Well, what I'm gonna say is, I kind of went off of what I was gonna speak to you about, but I'm hoping that you can come back multiple times. And because, like I said, I was going to talk about race. I was going to talk about the county and this and everything that's going on, which is important. But I don't get to have these conversations. And I want to have these conversations because I want people to see that you can have these conversations and it doesn't have to be ugly.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I would like to, I think, and say just a tad on that, because even though it wasn't necessarily in the forefront of my mind when I started the channel, as I've gone, like, I don't know, what, 8 months or so doing it, I think there are real solutions. You know, the problems that we're putting our finger on right now, like, there is a real solution to that. And, you know, when I think about, like, the purpose of what I'm trying to do is to build up the culture and the community here in St. Mary's County. And so when we talk about, like, these different problems of racism, the common denominator to all of the solutions is interactions. When I interacted with my wife, who's a Mexican, and all of her family, when I interacted with my wife's friend, who is Vietnamese, when I've interacted with all my friends on the football team who are Black, and, you know, all the people in school who are Asian, and all these different things, it's the exposure is what leads to knowledge, which leads to comfortability. And that's what leads to people actually seeing the reality for what it is you got to get people together. And so that's one of the nice things about having everybody come out to, you know, all the random little events that we have in St. Mary's County. It's like, for instance, we're going to have a concert, you know, a weekend, 2 weekends from now. And there's going to be probably like 1,000 people all getting together, and they're going to be of all different types of races, I'm sure. And that's going to be about this. Yeah, there you go. Sneak peek next week. Yeah, but yeah. So that's a big part of it, you know.
I believe that because, like I said, like driving tractor trailers and stuff like that, going to all these states, I'm like, you encounter some different people for sure. I done had it with times where they like, get that nigga out of here, and I had some times where you meet the nicest people ever. Is like, damn, you ain't like the people back home. You know what I mean?
And the other thing too, though, is that like there's a culture. You know, there really is a culture to every single place. And that's why when you go to Japan, it's radically different from what it is here in the United States. And same with even going to DC versus going to Annapolis, right? Yeah. Very different cultures.
Seeing different people will let you realize that it's not the people. It's just those pockets like that. It's not, you can't generalize and say white people, Chinese people. It's not, it just was these motherfuckers right there. It wasn't all like, it was just them.
Yeah. And even with those pockets, we actually realized with the Rainbow Coalition that those pockets not even different either.
Yeah.
Because that's when the KKK, the Black Panthers, the Latino gangs, all of them got together, they formed the Rainbow Coalition because they realized that we are the 99% and not the 1%.
Yeah. I believe that's why they got taken down in the first place.
Yeah, that's why most of those heads of that group
because it was bringing every race together, and it was more about, it was like, oh damn, they're not talking about just Black oppression, they're talking about the economy, they're talking about getting their money for the people, and I believe that's what caused the demise.
They don't want that.
They got the right target.
Stay
Well, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I hope you again, man.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here. You guys are doing some awesome stuff.
And I appreciate for you making this opportunity. Yeah, I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, I thought you was scam likely for sure.
There you go.
I did.
That's why we're getting together.
Because people jump in your DMs, they say things, and you're like, and I had it happen 3 times where I'm like taking the person's word, and then it's like boom, gone. And then I was like, you said what you're gonna do, then you said meet you up on the Zoom thing. We did all that. I was like, damn, I'm just saying everything. Then I got a call from my man's here. I'm like, damn. I'm like, well, this is a person of his word right here.
Love that.
Well, it's real simple to I don't know, do well by other people. Do what you say.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate it. Appreciate you, man.
Putting that on a t-shirt.
But
It's easy to do well by other people.
you stole it already? Jesus, that's crazy.
Was destined to be a king cause my father won. Greatness in my DNA like I was the child's son. Would think it's bipolar disorder. My mirror image distorted. My tendencies seem to be timid. My senses seem to be senseless. But true enough, I'm different.